All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. All right. I'm Katie. I'm the general manager here at ADAC. Thank you for joining us for our afternoon sessions of ADAC Digital Day. Or is it Digital Day at ADAC? Sorry, I'm going to do my branding right. Digital Day at ADAC. That's really important. Just a reminder, Digital Day is one of our two business series that we do each year. Digital Day is in the spring and Get Down to Business is in the fall. So join us for both of those important days. I also want to remind everyone, of course, here's your event guide. It was in your chair. There's some in the back. We have two really important sessions this afternoon, so we want to make sure that you're staying for both of them. They're both in this presentation room. And again, a reminder that all of our presentations are recorded, and you can watch them afterwards on our YouTube channel. So we'll send out an email in a couple of weeks. If you're not registered for our emails, please register on our website, adacatlanta.com, or grab one of our team members and we can help you with that. But we'll send out that email called In Case You Missed It, and you can watch any of our presentations in case there are important tidbits that you didn't get to write down. Of course, you do have your notebooks in your chair, so you can also use that as well. So, it's Digital Day. Have some fun with us on social media. Our handle is at ADAC Atlanta. We love seeing your pictures. We love seeing you here. So take all kinds of photos and videos, tag us, and we'll share that out. So thank you again. And I want to say a special thank you to our sponsor today for this presentation. That's Kravit. They always bring us amazing content. Love it, Calvin. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn things over to Ann Feldstein with Moxie Marketing.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me back. I do want to let you know that this is a panel discussion, and we want to be able to take questions during the presentation or the discussion. So please raise your hand, and Katie will bring the microphone because we want to make sure that we get everybody's question and that everyone can hear the question. I am so excited to be on this panel today. Okay. AV I don't love, but social media I do. I feel like I have to face this way, so excuse me, guys. Let me see if I do. This is better. I'm super excited to be sitting here. I don't know what's happening. Okay. I can't move. This is not good for a New Yorker. Okay. Okay. So I am a New Yorker and I'm Scottish, so I can talk loud. I'm super excited to be here today for a few different reasons. One, I've been fangirling after these two for so long, so to get to meet them in person and sit with them is pretty awesome. And this is like the AV stuff. At one point, this is for the blue. On a handheld, okie dokie. All right. Now, so I'm very quickly going to tell you about myself, and then I'm going to let these two beautiful ladies take over and tell you about how they got started with social media. I have my own marketing and PR firm called Moxie Marketing, and I've had it for 8.5 years now. Prior to that, I worked at Kravit, which I loved. I worked there for 15 years. And one of the things I'm super, super proud of was I was the person that suggested and implemented social media for Kravit. And we were the first brand to do it in the industry. And I'll never forget it was February of 2009. I followed the Obama campaign really closely where he utilized social media, and he was the first to do so at that time. It was also the financial crisis, so our marketing budgets were cut. So I suggested social media, and it slow to start, but then, as you can see, it's a very important part of our marketing tools. So it's one of the reasons I'm thrilled to be here today. Enough about me now. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Tavia Forbes. I'm one half of Forbes Masters, and I will say Monet led our social media, I guess, the beginnings of our social media platform in 2016 when we merged. we throw it up. We don't know what year we started. Honestly, I think it was 2016. And when we merged our businesses, which happened, another long story, but I'll let Monet take over and say.
I think that story is appropriate for today. I'm Monet. I'm the Masters of Forbes Masters, and I did initially start our social media and managed and handled our social media. We now have a team that works with us, and they handle our social media. I still work side by side with Morgan on social media. It's kind of hard to completely give up, but we'll get into those details. And then on another note, Tavia and I met, we always throw it up in the air because I think when we met, the focus was making money, and we had no concept of time. And so I actually graduated from SCAD and was working corporate hospitality, and I hated it, so I was there for about a year. And I prayed a prayer, and I said, I'm going to put as much effort in applying for a corporate job, and I'm going to put effort in establishing myself and getting a website made and things like that. And whatever doors open in either direction, that's where I was going to go. And so I ended up getting a job on the interior design side, started that, and struggled for 2 years. Then I get the opportunity to work on a commercial space. It was a salon, and I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, but I needed the money, and so I took the job, and I designed it as far as my SketchUp model could take me. And when it came time for implication, I had no idea how to gather contractors. I had no idea of the process. So the project became stagnant, and the client became very annoyed. She reached out to Tavia, who at the time...
I think I'd done maybe 2 or 3 salons in Atlanta at that time, and she reached out and she was like, well, the project is not really going anywhere. The design is beautiful, and we met separately, and then came up with the idea, well, I don't know how, the idea that we were going to be able to work together. So they had us meet at a coffee shop, and probably the most awkward meeting to date.
I was extremely uncomfortable. I showed up late. I think I had leggings on, and I wanted to just be done with it. So I was like, very rude and very short. And at this time, I knew that I wasn't the person for the job either, and so it was a hard time. Long story short, I was rude throughout the meeting. I think I told Tavia, I was like, I'll call you when I need something. And she's like, no. But she could sense the frustration I had behind, just things not going well with the client. So after the client left, we had a powwow, and she's like, look, and we had a great conversation. They ended up letting me go and having Tavia finish that job, and I reached out to Tavia the next day to reintroduce myself, ask her, at the time she was working primarily in New York, and I said, I'd love to help you on any other projects that you may have when you come to Atlanta, because ultimately I was just trying to learn and move forward in the industry. That began a beautiful work relationship, which developed into a friendship, and we got thrown onto a project together.
Yeah, that happened so quickly, and you can do all the planning that you want and everything laid out and all of your strategy, but sometimes you just have to leave some things up to chance. And Monet calling, I think that changed both of our lives. That one phone call, we don't know where we would be, and completely different energy, and we were able to see each other, and again, thrown together again in a project that we completed in a week, and we've been working ever since, and we've been busy ever since that moment.
And as a segue into authenticity, realistically, I was embarrassed. Realistically, I was embarrassed, but I also knew that my focus was to get better at what I wanted to do, progress in the industry, and learn. And so despite this person being my age, having my style, taking my job,
I needed the job too.
She's like, I needed money too. At the end of the day, it was an opportunity to learn, and so I decided to show up authentically and say, hey, can I shadow you?
I love that.
Off to you, Anne.
Thank you. So I was actually just going to say what Monet said, and this is such a great example of bringing your authentic self to who you are in social media, and not just if you're a designer, but if you're a brand or a company. We had a pre-panel talk, and we were talking about how it's so important to really be yourself. And for the three of us, we agree it's our highlight reel. We decide that we're putting when we're happy, when we do exciting things. For me, a lot, it's my dogs. We choose not to put forward if we're crying or having a super bad day, but there are people that choose to do that. And one of the things that we spoke about is being respectful of people that are posting things that maybe we don't necessarily agree with. And realizing that everyone maybe not be having the same type of day that you yourself are having. So how does this relate back to social media? When you're posting your work, when you're posting personal stuff, try to be as authentic to who you are as possible. The advice that I always give my clients, especially my designer clients, is, and I said this to Tavia and Monet before, you're tastemakers, you're influencers. People are looking to you for guidance. We'll say the word guidance for now. And of course that's on design, but it's on other things. It could be if you see a great exhibit, or you have a great meal, or you see a beautiful flower. I think it can be all of those things. It could be a nice curated message on your Instagram or Facebook or whatever social media platform that you use. So can you both tell us a little bit more about, things that you post outside of design to start with?
I think you reminded me of something. A conscious decision that we made when we started was to post only our work and things that inspire us, and not necessarily other beautifully designed spaces, but that was someone else's story. And so we were always going to share our story, our lens, things that inspire us, the way, whether we're at a show, whether we're at an art show, or fashion, music, whatever. It was just going to be primarily focused on Forbes Masters as a brand. And so, yes, staying authentic. But there are designers that post other designers' work, and that's inspiring. And I think that kind of leads more into content creating in some sense. But again, staying authentic. But that was one of our conscious decisions.
I think you make a very valid point, and I don't have an issue if a brand that I'm working with or a designer I'm working with posts other people's work, as long as it's very clear that it's not their own. That seems to be a little bit less of an issue than it was a couple of years ago, but I still think it's very important. And I think you make a very valid point, is the two of you made that decision together, right? So it has to be authentic to what feels good for you. I like sharing things. That's just me. I'm not a designer. But because if I see something and I think it's beautiful, I want to share it with the world. But that's how I feel.
And before I took over or started Forbes Masters social media account, I was building my own, and I didn't have work to show. And so it was very much showing products from my favorite vendors or beautiful spaces from designers that I loved. But to both of your points, I was sure to tag them. The thing in doing that, though, or in posting, others' work, is I was very conscious of also creating, at minimum, like a mood board or something to add within the context of social media posting in my page, just so that there'd be some semblance of me and my style that could be filtered through there. So if you don't have the work to post necessarily, or as we all experience, you may not have a project that you can post because it's, tied up in an award, or we're waiting for it to be featured, then, they're still your vendors. They have beautiful photography of their products that you can share while also building the relationship with your vendors and other things like that. And I do feel like that contributes as well.
I think something I'd like to expand upon there is, if you jump down to the second to the bottom bullet point, the collaboration, tagging your vendors, it can grow your platform. Because most brands and vendors, they want to show that people are using their products or how they're using their products or the fact that their products are inspiring people. So always make sure you tag your vendors, and it is a great way to grow your platform.
Oh yeah. I mean, because if you want any type of reposting, imagine if it was Kravitz, reposting your
With
mood
that
board.
audience.
That's a flex, and you want that.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
I agree. And the other thing that I would suggest for designers is, of course, tag them. Make sure you follow them. That's also really important. Give them a shout out. And you can always DM, like you can always ask, like, how could we work together on social? I mean, I do know that brands are always looking for content, right? The one thing that I always say to people that come to me for social media is it is a beast that always needs to be fed. It is. It just always needs to be fed. And you have to figure out the cadence, what cadence you're comfortable with. Is it every day? Is it 5 days a week? It's truly whatever cadence you're comfortable with, but it's a cadence that you can always try and keep with fresh content.
I think the big thing with that too is just staying true to yourself. Like, you have to check in with you. There's so much influence out there, and it's true. We're all, as designers, we are influencers. And so it's important not to get caught up in what someone else is doing. Someone may be very heavy on collaboration, and every time you look at their page, they're like, oh my God, another partnership. I need to work on my partnerships. And it's like, do you? Like,
Great
is that your
point.
season? Is that what you want to do right now? But constantly checking in with yourself, because don't underestimate the power of influence. You may look up and realize you're doing a project, or you have a partnership, or you're just into your page is representation of something that is not your brand at all. And so it's just very important to stay true to yourself in that sense. And that means whatever it means for you. And from the outside perspective, for persons like, us, if we're looking on your page, then it's our job to respect what you're doing and not critique or judge, or any of those things.
Also, being true to yourself, and this was something we talked about earlier, is mistakes happen. We all make mistakes. And yesterday, I saw a video that it really resonated with me. And it was about being seen trying, right? Because so often you only want to be seen when it's perfect. I mean, you saw at the start of the presentation, things weren't perfect. I mean, they weren't terrible, but, a little AV issue. It is about, putting yourself out there. If you make a mistake, I think as designers to, if it's designers like Tavia and Monet that you look up to, and then you see they make a mistake, you're like, oh my God, they're just like me. Or it's a mistake that you can learn from, because we all make mistakes.
I love to share my mistakes. I was just telling Ann backstage that my phone is out to get me, because it never fails. I always have a typo. I can read over it, and then I post it, and I'm like, that's not how you spell that person's name. And I'm freaking out. And I remember a mentor posted something, and I had reached out to her, and I was just like, hey, XYZ, because I'm always getting those messages. And so I was like, it's my turn to do that for someone.
Yeah.
And she's like, Monet, it's okay. We make mistakes. And I was like,
Yes.
it was my turn to do that. but
Also, thank you.
yes, but
Yes.
thank you. Thank you for helping me to be reminded. I think this would be a good time to show the
We're
blooper.
we're going right to that? Or we're saving that to the
Don't
end?
let me interrupt it.
Can we save that to the end? Because it's
sure.
my favorite.
And be graceful when people make mistakes. I think you were saying that before. Cancel culture is ridiculous.
Yes.
And we jump on, and that's what makes people afraid to share, because you're afraid that you're going to make a mistake and then going to be judged for that. So I think the grace that you want is the grace that you give. Be mindful of your comments and how you share, like things that you share with people, whether it's kind of how you show up in your real life. Show up on social media in that sense. Be kind.
I can't stress that. I can't stress that enough. I think that's so important, besides bringing your true self, but also work really hard to be kind, even if you're having a bad day. I read an interesting article the other day, and it was talking about men that comment on women's posts. And oftentimes, the men, they have a picture of like a cat or a goat or something, and they have a name that you could never figure out who it is. so you can be a little more brave or bold when you're not actually representing who you are. Like my handle is Ann Feldstein, and it is a picture of me. So I will always check myself, even if I'm having a really bad day, before I post a negative comment, because it's living out there. So I just think it's very important to be kind, and I try to take the motto of if I don't like something, I don't have to post. I don't have to comment. I can just move it along, get to the cute dog, post, say how I love the dog or the baby or whatever that I happen to love. I do want to go on to the next point, even though I think being authentically yourself will come back over and over in this presentation. When this conversation for social media first started, we were taking a look at the cultural phenomenons of 2023. And the three things that come to mind immediately for me are women, and it's Beyonce, Taylor Swift, and Barbie. I feel that's all of what you saw in 2023. And the power of nostalgia, I think, is such a great, Barbie, no one did it better than Barbie. So I wanted to click over here, and this goes to 2 points, or actually 3 points. The power of nostalgia, right? People love to look back, and so much of design is seeped in history, right? So I think that's a way to tell a story, especially if you don't have a lot of content to share. Do you guys how do you use history?
Well, I guess just to speak on the topic, I'd say, oftentimes when you're posting now, whether it's a reel,
X.
TikTok,
No. Okay.
or Instagram, now they're suggesting to you, use this song because it's popular or it's trending. And just to speak on the topic of nostalgia, I really love to go back and find like those songs that I love, and I like to direct my own reel with a song that I feel like goes. And then so if that's like TLC, or if that's like Maroon 5, and not the trending song, it again kind of speaks to me, my personality, my selection of music, my diversity in music, and again, branding myself instead of the priority being, let me do what the trending thing is doing. Sometimes if the focus is the likes or the following, it doesn't translate, and it just feels like a copy and repeat, or just a copy and paste type of thing.
Yes, or
For myself, that's what I find.
you're like, oh, I just saw this, and so it gets confused. You don't get to differentiate your work.
Yes, I'm gonna be honest. I love Beyonce, but this new song.
Are we going to do the
And
dance?
I'm looking at Tiffany Cobb right now because she's a big fan of Beyonce. But this
I love the
country
song.
I love what she's doing. But the song, it's every video.
It's every
Someone's
video.
using the song, and I don't want to watch your video now because it's like I just heard that song. I don't want to listen to the song, and yeah, I can turn the sound off, but
It's also an
I
earworm.
can just scroll instead of
Yes.
doing
If
that.
everyone's doing the same thing, no one's doing anything.
Yeah.
It's
I
just
know.
one wash of the same content. So
I know, I do like the
again,
song, though.
Be yourself.
But it is an earworm. It gets stuck in you, and then I'm singing it all day long. But it doesn't allow you to differentiate your work.
Yeah.
Yes, I do agree. Bringing it back to Barbie for 1 second, I really thought this was such an interesting slide because it talks to a few different points. Of course, there's the collaboration with a brand like Airbnb. I also desperately wanted to stay there. But Barbie is pink, right? Everything that Barbie does is pink, and that is really strong branding. So if there is something that you do consistently in your branding, you want to make sure that that's a part of your social media message as well, whether it's a particular color that you identify with, or a logo, or even a type of music or song that you express yourself with that is a part of branding. And then this also goes to collaboration.
And it's interesting now that I find myself up here. I'm naturally a contrarian, and so whenever I see a lot of people doing something, it actually is a red flag for me. It's like, wait a minute, why? But I do think that to capitalize on those moments, one person that sticks out to me is Andre Hilton. During the Barbie fiasco, he had this fabulous room that he did, and there might have been like a pink sofa, and everything else was just pretty and colorful. But he also did a filter on himself because, I mean, if you know Andre Hilton, you know he's like a model. He's like a ballroom dancer. He's disgusting. But he put this filter on himself that made him look like he was a Barbie. And like that's owning, that's owning it. I think he did a really good job at capitalizing on that moment. And I would say that he was being authentic to himself because he was showing his space, which is very much his brand, while still capitalizing on the talk of Barbie.
Yeah, I think that's a great example of it. You did see your feed fill up with pink fabrics and, pink paint colors and pink furniture. And I mean, I loved it, but I'm sure not everybody did. But it is like you see that bubblegum pink and you immediately think Barbie. So it's just very strong in the branding. The third the third point is promoting diversity, inclusion, and celebrating acceptance. And I think we had talked about that. And that kind of goes back to being kind, right? And being like open to that people are different than you are. Do you two ever like highlight, perhaps another designer, or like do you use your platform and share because you have such a robust following? Is that something that you ever do?
We share, I think we share a lot of art, like a lot of artists and a lot of Black creatives and those that are in the design space. I will say we talked about this a little bit before, but just at the height of 2020 and through Black Lives Matter, I think Monet and I met one day, it was a Saturday for an install, and it was directly after the George Floyd incident. And we were both kind of just undone. Like we didn't know what to do with ourselves. And Monet had started writing a post that we were going to say something, and we both looked at it and was like, we may lose a lot of followers for this. And we was like, well, we have to. If we both feel like this, we have to say something. And we did, and I think it was Architectural Digest that was one of the first to reach out. And I think from that moment, there was an entire, there was a push to be more inclusive, to have voices that were not heard before, heard, and then works that were not seen. And I think that we're still working through a lot of that, but that was a very, very definitive moment when we saw ourselves show up as Black designers, I would say.
Yes, for me, and I'm pretty sure for Tavia as well, it was a very proud moment because we did look at each other with heavy, heavy eyes. And, from the sadness of everything that was going on, but I think that there was some semblance of, can we say something? And so, it was like, well, we have to be professional. We can't show this, that, and the other. And so we went through that for a few moments, and then, like she said, landed on deciding that we were going to share. But what that ended up doing was completely opposite than what we thought. We ended up gaining a lot of followers, and then with Architectural Digest reaching out to say, can we repost what you said, was just, honestly, it kind of brings tears to my eyes now just to go in it feeling like you weren't going to have that support and choosing to do it anyway, but then find that you do have that support. It just kind of encourages the continual, decision to stand up for what you want to stand up for and not what you think is, going to promote your business or, following.
I think that's such a valid point, and I think that always goes back to being authentically who you are. I remember that time frame, and it felt like it was such a turning point that absolutely needed to happen, and I was so glad that it actually did happen, that we were talking about and highlighting people and that didn't get the attention that they needed to. And as business owners, I can also appreciate that that is a scary time where you want to be authentically who you are, but you're a youngish business and you're growing your brand and you're worried that you're going to make a decision that could have a negative impact on your business?
Yeah, I mean, what I've learned is there's absolutely going to be those who don't want to follow you and who don't like your work and who don't like what you have to say. And then there's going to be people to make you feel like Beyonce herself. It's like, am I really that good? And so with that knowledge and having that at so young in our business, I think that really set the tone for how we show up. And it's very unapologetic, because we are received, and so long as that is the case, then we can make money, and while also being ourselves. But I do want to say, back to the top of your question, it's important for us to be in community with and have designer friends, and so we absolutely will post our designer friends. It was just today that we learned that one of our friends in Oakland, California, was featured in Architectural Digest. Now, what I will do strategically is share this on a story, because the story kind of goes away. And if you want to then have a bubble that's like, community friends and accomplishments, then it can stay there. But if a client or a vendor comes on your feed, they're not seeing someone else's work or so forth. So you can celebrate other designers, which I strongly encourage.
Can we dive deeper into how you make the decision of what goes on your grid versus what goes on stories? Because I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, so we actually just had a call with our social media manager, Morgan, and we spoke about, and this is something that we'll talk about every 6 months or year. We'll decide with, our PR manager, what is the focus for the year? What do we want to deliver? How do we want to come off? What partnerships do we want to make? That kind of tailors the type of content that we're going to share. We're always going to share a progress, and we're always going to share a finished product. But what vendors are we constantly sharing? What events are we constantly going to it, and stuff like that? There's some strategy behind it, and so that's how we come about what lands on our social media page. And like I said, that may change from here today to tomorrow. But one thing that's important on our page is we have a section, or we have a post that we do once a month, and it is it's either a question or it's a fact. And that gets the community going and get the comments and the continual follows. Because what you will learn if you haven't, your social media followers are not your clients primarily. But they are the people that's going to get the word out, and they're going to help build your brand. And so we want those folks talking and learning about each other on our page. And so once a month, we'll pose a question of like, what's your favorite upholstered sofa, this year, or something like that. And then we'll share a fact, and that's our opportunity to kind of share the structure or the culture of our business, where we say, this is what we do. So again, tying in our brand and then teaching our audience about ourselves while still sharing.
And do you see the engagement increase when you're doing the questions, or like, because that's something I do recommend for the brands that I work with, ask questions. It's a great way to build engagement. Also, something that we've found like the past year or two, it's not the finished, polished images that perform the best. It's actually the coming off the factory, it's the behind the scenes, and we'll get questions. And I think that's because designers are always looking for things that not everybody can see, that they just love, like, oh, this just came off the factory line, and there's sawdust and stuff. They love that. That's when they're, oh, what piece is that? Is that a new piece, or is it a custom piece? So in regards to engagement, I love the questions. How does that fare, the engagement from the questions to versus your polished pieces, we'll call them, polished posts, to your behind the scenes? Is that something you take a look at?
Yes. So with the questions, definitely a lot of dialogue, and that's fun to see who's adding to the conversation and who's gaining and all of that. That's great. As far as the images, funny enough, we had a moment where we realized that our inquiries slowed down because we had a lot more perfect professional images we started to go in this direction of like, we need to be polished. And so to go back to that analogy, we were looking at everyone else and we were trying to figure out, okay, where do we want to go next? What do we need to do? And looking at other designers that we love, and we're like, okay, we're going to do that. And what we found for us, the lesson learned there was our inquiry slowed down because our clients are not their clients. And so what may be working for them, we learned, was not working for us. And so we had to scale back the perfect imagery and start getting back on camera again. And that was very much the beginning stages because we didn't have work. Right.
Yes.
And we could be on social media doing a live or just saying, hey, we're out shopping, or just being more active face to face. Whereas we're not able to do that today, but we also were able to see a difference in our inquiries and the style of inquiries. I think what Tavy and I came to terms with was maybe our audience, was feeling like we were less obtainable.
Valid point. That's
And
great.
so for that reason, they were just moved on to someone else.
I think that's such a great point that you just made. We had mentioned that we'd be taking questions during the discussion, but we've had so much to talk about. So I just want to pause for a second to see if anybody does have a question. Yep, we have
Okay,
one over here.
hold on,
Katie's
let me-
going to come with the,
So you're talking about posting these on your social media. What social media? Across every platform? And what are those platforms? So
That
is
is
it
a-
the same message on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on everything, or do you just post it somewhere? One.
I think the easy answer is post it everywhere, because I think even if we take a poll in the room, I don't really like Facebook. I primarily am on Instagram, and I feel that a lot of my peers love TikTok right now, and so they are primarily posting there. But I think you could post that same content across the board, and and it'll be fine. I do think that there's a lot of research in the type of content that's more successful on certain platforms, but at the very surface, why not? If you already have the content, you already have the reel, you already have the image, just copy and paste.
if I could share just a little bit on that as well. Typically, Instagram is the primary app or software that we use. With that said, I always recommend that you just click the little button and post to Facebook, to your business Facebook page. It helps with SEO. It also has a different audience. The audience on Facebook is an older audience. The audience on Instagram is a younger audience. TikTok is very popular right now. It is typically a younger audience. So you have to see if it's right for your brand. And it does seem to be a little bit more involved. They don't want static images. They want a little bit more intricate videos. I'm not great at it, though I did watch Who the TF Did I Marry? I don't know if anybody else watched that 50 cent, but I listened to that whole thing. So again, that kind of goes back to being authentically who you are. What is the right social media channel for you? I don't really recommend Pinterest for the brands that I work with, but I do tend to work with more luxury brands. But your audience may be there. It's taking a little bit of time and figuring out what is the right platform for you. But I would say, hands down, Instagram is the most important one. Another question over here.
All right, coming to you.
You talked about your when you post and you talk to your PR person. How far in advance do you schedule your post, or do you go by the quarter when you're posting, and what all you're going to be posting about? How do you break that down?
So as I was mentioning before, we have a structure. We do a fact, we do a question, we'll do a rendering, we'll do a site visit. We try to consider the 9 tiles. I think if you're looking from your phone, you're going to see the first 9 tiles. So we have 9 posts that we do every month. And Morgan, actually, we will have the discussion the month prior. So we are already thinking about the 9 slots and what will be inserted there a month prior. And that's just how we do it, because you are able to schedule those posts out. If you don't have that content, you could very well do it, within each post, understanding what the previous was. But I do think you want to take into consideration what the entire look looks like, so that when someone lands on your page, it just kind of looks cohesive
One thing that I will tell you from our research, when you post photos of yourself or people, they do typically tend to outperform. So you want to make sure that you weave in photos of yourself or humans, whatever X number of posts. Any other questions before we continue? No? No questions? Going back to what you had said earlier about the not completely polished posts, I've noticed, you know, some of the people that I follow on Instagram now, there's a lot of get ready with me now. And like people are cleaning their kitchens or whatever. I find it so interesting that people are willing to be so vulnerable and not just put forward the perfect finished image. I think we are getting more educated to the fact of it is everybody's highlight reel, and not everybody wakes up and looks that way. So I just noticed that trend, and first I was like, what is get ready, GRWM, right? Couldn't figure that out. I was like, what does that mean? And then I was like, oh, get ready with me now, because it seems like every video that people are doing skincare or makeup or things. So what do we think could be the next trend for interior designers then? Like, what could we do that's for this industry?
I am really. Some people are saying that it's already kind of passed, but have you guys seen this? This, I don't know if it's a reel. It could be on TikTok, but it's basically a category of people, and they're like, I'm a Gemini. I hate to make decisions.
Yes.
I think that we need to
Yes.
collaborate and do. I'm an interior designer. Of course, I think that's horrible.
Yes.
You know, or
Yes.
like something
Yes,
like
you
that.
have to do it now. You have to do it.
We gotta make fun of our clients, though, in the middle of all of
Okay.
that. We all share the same woes with our clients. And it's time to call them out. They need,
I think it's therapy for us.
yes.
So Tavy and I were talking about. I'm like, should we tell?
No.
I mean, we're not going to. We haven't done it.
Spill the tea.
But I think that there should be a podcast where, you know, for a comic relief, we can distort our voices. But it's like, you know, like all I see is Tavia, like you see the hair and it's just blacked out, and then we're talking about stories with clients. So it's funny, it's venting, but it's also learning, and we can talk about, you know, the different situations that we had on the project site or with a client, or the horrific moments where, you know, we just finished the basement and then we came back that next day and it was flooded. You know, it's like, talk about those things. And they could be like 15, 20 minutes long. I mean, like, any partners in here that are willing to take that on?
Right.
Grab it?
I think that's awesome.
That's also about building community, and that's what social media has. Like, you find a lot of spaces like, oh my gosh, I actually feel like that, or so on. And I feel like we tend to have all the polished things, but we're not talking about these contractors and clients that are driving us crazy. Like,
Yes, a therapy group is in order, I believe.
Yes. This one time in the very beginning of our career, Tavy and I fell in love with this wallpaper. It had a metallic backing and an open weave, like a grass cloth. Yeah. And so you could see the metallics come in from the back. We put it in this grand dining room, and when we walked in the room after it was installed, all you saw was beige walls. Like, it looked like that. You couldn't see the metallic, you couldn't see the texture or the pattern, and we had spent thousands of dollars on this wallpaper, and you could only really appreciate it or experience it like at this, you know, and it's a costly mistake, but having those conversations amongst designers and, you know, just kind of encouraging us to not show up and recite all the great things we're doing, but instead share so that we can actually learn from one another, build those relationships, which transcends into sharing each other's work. You know, we even have a community amongst ourselves where if a project is not for us, then it's like, hey, you know what? We have another designer friend that's amazing. Maybe you can call her. But I think that is what's going to really protect our community too. Sometimes when we get quotes from I feel like I'm venting. Sometimes we'll get quotes, and clients will share quotes from other designers. And just to see the structure or the content, it's like, oh my gosh, they're charging how much? And it's just like we have to get on the same page with that. And I think that having community and authentic conversation amongst us could assist.
Everything you just said is 100% on point. I am not a designer, I am a marketing consultant, but I always look to connect with other marketing consultants because I am like, I'll share my contract with you. I'll share my terms and conditions with you. I'll share my press list with you because it's ever changing and it's a full-time job managing it. So I believe if we can share our information, we can be stronger, but also I believe there's enough work for everybody. As opposed to having the scarcity mindset, I don't think if you have my information that you're gonna take all the clients and I'm not going to get anyone. So how do we bring that back to actually creating a forum where I think designers, because you're being very vulnerable if you're willing to share, your contracts or spill the tea about your clients, but I think it's such a learning experience, and hopefully you can avoid a pitfall, if you hear about his pitfall or something like that. So I think a new social media platform.
It's doing it first. I mean, even with the questions, at the end of the lecture, it's like, who has questions? And it just takes, we could sit for 5 minutes, and it just takes that one person to raise their hand, and then 100 hands go up. It's like we always need one person to just do it first, and I think that is what we would like to represent on our page and the things that we post is like not to be afraid to show your blooper or not to be afraid to ask this question, which other designers then come on our page and they're essentially marketing themselves by saying, oh, well, I love this sofa from Helm and Chain. And someone may be like, I love Helm and Chain. I'm going to go follow that person. But essentially to answer the question is just doing it first. Just start the trend.
It's scary though, right?
It's scary, but if it's scary, then that means you're losing out on an opportunity to essentially grow. It's always a 50%. And if being afraid is going to keep you from making that first step, then you've already failed.
True words, very true words. Any questions on that? Yes? Oh, wait, Kate.
Hold on, Calvin. I'm coming to you.
I love you guys' social media posts, and I think as a designer, also, like when you guys travel and you make those posts, like you guys, I think you guys did Paris off the fabric one. Deco off. There it is. Okay, I wanted to go there, and seeing you guys post helped me to see, okay, this is where I need to navigate. This is how I need to. So that share also, your content does help us. Other people who look through different designers' social media feeds, and how we come across. So I just want to tell you guys, I do love your posts.
Thank you so much.
That must feel really good to hear. Oh, we have another question over here, Katie.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so I love your post too. I follow you. But it's so funny that you brought that up because that's one thing that I think when I got started in interior design, and even still, just like when it comes to pricing, that was just such a closed off wall from, kind of like everyone. It was just kind of like a wall is up, like if you, like it's that secret that you don't share. But in essence, by not sharing, as you just explained, that really hurts us because then, you either undercut, your designer colleague over here, or, you find out that you're overpriced or whatever the case might be. And I won't say overpriced because, we have to have value in our work. But just having some type of communication there just to know, and it'll of course vary by city. It'll of course vary by, different neighborhoods, especially as it pertains to Atlanta. And so there's definitely variation. And like you said, there's enough work to go around for everyone. So how can we be more transparent about that amongst our community? Is it something where, like, do you have any suggestions on how to, because it seems like whenever you ask that question of, how much, you charge, it's like, it's always a skirt around, like, oh, well, it's different for everybody. You know, every company's different. You know, I'll do flat fee. You know, I started off flat fee and now I only do hourly, or I started off hourly, now I only do flat fee. So, but it never gets nailed head on.
We were just talking about a private Instagram page that someone needs to start.
Instagram page.
Just for designers, just to place the event.
I'm not
Melissa
that
Wilson?
Yeah. I'm not that familiar with how you can do an Instagram page where everyone can see the comments. I'm just saying I'm not familiar.
I know you're able to do Facebook.
I was going to say, I do have a private Facebook group that I have I also happen to own a CrossFit gym. So all of our members have access to that. So if I'm from New York, so if it's closed for a snow day, we post there first because you can get an immediate notification. I think that's something to consider.
Me personally, I would commit to once a month meeting up. There's just something so special, especially post-COVID, about just meeting up like now and having a conversation. Because I think when you get back online, I don't know, it just kind of goes back to this, like, I still have this screen that can
Protect you.
project or whatever. And so I like the face-to-face. And even if it were once a month and, there's drinks, there's
Always.
and there's snacks. And it's like whoever you kind of fall into and talk, just talk. But the rule is like you are showing up to not only gain, but to give. And like maybe that's the motto. I feel like I should be getting paid for this.
Yes.
I promise you, I volunteer and I give. Like, everything is not about money. Yeah.
I want to say something. I'm going to age myself here. I've been in the industry for 23 years now. I started at 10. And I've been to every design center in the country with the exception of Scottsdale, and that's only because Scottsdale moved. I've been to, I can't tell you how many kinds of presentations that I've been. I've hosted them, I've spoken at them, I just watched them. The designers, the questions always get back to, how do we share information? Like, how can we help each other? Like, what do you put in your contract? And I think because so many designers are, they work independently, or they may have subordinates, but they may not have an equal, where you two do happen to have an equal partner. Many design firms don't. I think there is such a need for real community where you're having open and frank conversations.
We have a question back here.
Yes.
Not so much a question, but an open offer. I think we have such a special community here in Atlanta around ADAC, and if this is of interest, we will provide the venue at the Kravitz showroom. So if there's anyone who's interested in getting together and taking the mantle of this idea to have an
You guys should do
open
that.
forum,
Definitely.
we would be pleased to provide a neutral space for you to gather after hours so that you don't have to worry about clients in the building and otherwise. So I'd be happy to help organize and get that going for you.
They get a round
Thank
of
you,
applause.
Savannah.
Well, as I'm going to the next one,
Absolutely,
I'm
you
going to
guys should
say,
lead that.
Savannah, talk to our team, because actually it was Monet in Paris that we talked about that, and our team has been brainstorming, how do we make that happen for you? You gave us that great idea about having some sort of a forum for designers to get together and
Yeah, and it's going to happen at Kravitz.
Can't wait.
We'll follow
Kravitz
up with
Nadac
dates.
making it happen.
We'll follow up with dates and time.
I'm
Please
going
leave
to-
your emails.
I'm going to bring up, there is a group meeting at Authentique on March 20th called, it's the Old Design Collective.
Oh, I used to go to Design Collective.
So it's a loose group anymore, and if anyone wants to take the mantle, but they are meeting, I'm looking here at, I'm trying to see how to tag it. It's Allison Widener, number one. She's the corporate sales at Authentique, and she's the host. So it's March 20th, and it's exactly what you're talking about. So not that there isn't room for several groups, but there's an opportunity.
As we've
love
said,
that.
there's room for lots.
I agree. And one thing that I've always said, and I keep in touch with Fresca, Atlanta has such a great design community. You really do have such a strong group and sense of community here, more so, I think, than other markets. And it's one that I've just always watched closely. So you guys take the lead on this, and then it can spread to other cities.
Job.
What?
We just
got a new job.
Yes, they got a new job. Yes.
It didn't work out the way that I planned.
It never
See
does.
y'all next month.
Yes, exactly. So we actually are coming upon an hour, and I know there's other presentations and you all have things to do. Did we answer all of your questions in regards to social media? And we want to make sure that we end with the videos. But is there any other questions that we can answer before we get to the videos? Nope, all good? Okay, so we're going to skip through because we never went to some of our slides, but that's okay. Those were just some of the cultural phenomenons of 2023, and now we have the cultural phenomenons of 2024.
I'd like to say with this picture,
Please do.
Every time Tavy and I have a photo shoot for Fresh Pictures, I promise you, we show up and we're like, we're gonna do Chris White shirts and we're just gonna keep it professional. And then this happens. Like,
But that's authentically you.
Independently bring a suitcase full of other things.
Yes.
Like,
we were doing something and Melissa, I think Melissa was asking for some images and she's like, is there anything else? And we would show her something else. She's like, is there anything else? It was just all wild, and that's just, I mean, you know,
Authentically you.
It's exactly that.
Yes.
It would be nice to see more colorful, just more character come through on your images too. Because I mean, that's what your client is connecting with. Like, we all can design beautiful spaces, but at the end of the day, I think it's your personality and how you guys are going to work together that, you know, that matters. And so how else will they know? I mean, you want to make sure that that's clear in the beginning, because you don't want to get in the middle of the project and realize that the relationship doesn't work okay.
I think that's a great point. Do you want to take us through your images real quick before we get to the videos?
This room is in a client's home that we just finished in Buckhead. Her and her husband just got married. They bought this huge house, and they wanted every room to be representation of something else. They wanted to be able to vacate in their own house, and so every room looks crazy like this. Like, it's a different pattern. It's a different experience, and it was a joy to do. Because she wasn't really concerned with, you know, the idea of like it needs to all be cohesive, or I want the look of. She led with how she wanted to experience her house, and so we thought this picture was good representation for the topic.
What a bold choice, and good for her for really expressing herself and working with you too to, you know, to express it. I loved the blue. Anything you'd like to share about this particular space, which I love the color of the sofa?
This space is in New Jersey. It just got featured in Architectural Digest, and I think we included this picture because the client had a very large art collection. And in this particular view, you know, we have this beautiful fireplace, and it's hard surface, but we wanted to incorporate a piece of art. This little butterfly head in between the two chairs, it was a beautiful ceramic piece that we just brought in because it needed to be high up on a pedestal away from their toddler. But we wanted to include a piece of the client apart from the room being designed by them, and so adding that piece of art on the mantle, on the fireplace, was just our way of being authentic to the client instead of trying to showcase this beautiful fireplace, and it went well.
I like it.
Oh, this is in that same house.
The one before, previous? Okay.
So this is the sitting room, and the room ended up serendipitously working together with the wallpaper and the art. I don't know if we saw the art before the wallpaper before the art. It just so happened to all come together for these art collectors.
I love is it wallpaper or painting on this particular?
That is a chenille wallpaper by Arte.
Oh, beautiful. And I think.
Stop it.
Okay.
We're obsessed with this space. This was the This was to the Holiday Show House 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2022.
And we wanted this to be a ladies' parlor, and it was this huge room at the landing on the second level, and yeah, that's what this was about. And there was just little gestures of femininity around the room.
There were a lot of
gestures.
Good.
There were naked women on the walls.
Good.
Very tasteful, though. Very tasteful.
All right, I think we get to the video now. So the before.
Oh,
This is the real video. Not the real video, the serious one.
I can't even take this seriously.
We wanted to come on and say thank you so much for your continued support online and offline. As you know, recently we completed the Home for Holiday Show house here. It actually was our first local show house. And we received a lot of new followers, friends, vendors, but a lot of inquiries on the art that we used in our space and how we went about sourcing them.
So, in honor of Black History Month, we wanted to share some of our favorite Black artists that you can patronize and enjoy some of their work. There's Totes Jerome Taylor, whose work we incorporated into the Holiday Show House. Joe Baskerville, whose work we used in a penthouse project. Manu Bayo, whose work also accompanied Joe's in that same penthouse project. And Houghton St. Clair, whose large piece we used in the Kids Space Show House.
Some of the art galleries where you can find these awesome artists are Spalding Nick. They actually helped us with the Home for Holiday Show House. Very pleasant to work with. Jennifer Balcos. She helped us back when we did the Kids Space Show House. And Zucot Gallery, they are infamous in the city of Atlanta for providing 100% Black artist work. And we honestly learned about them through our clients. Their name kept coming up because we have clients who tend to have large art collections. And once introduced to them, we just fell in love. They have something for everything. And lastly, Maison Gallery, we actually used them when we were completing our vignette for the Black Interior Designers Network Conference at ADAC. And it was our first time going into a gallery and asking for loaner pieces, and they were happy to help us. So we definitely want to support their gallery and include them in this awesome list of art galleries where you can go and find these Black artists and more.
Thank you again for your continued support, and let us know if you'd like to see something else from us on here. We'd be happy to share and answer any questions. And also remember, if you didn't get a chance to see the Atlanta Show House and see our space, you can pick up an edition of Atlanta Home and Lifestyles magazine and let us know what you think. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.
So that's the serious one. And now,
Can I get in here? You've got enough space. There are some awesome art galleries that we have worked with in the past and would be so welcoming to anyone coming in looking for Black artists as well as any art, because they sell art. We also have Zucot Gallery.
All suggestions and things that you would hear from us, just let us know. We'd be happy to help insert.
So I can start.
Showhouse room is featured, so please.
So it's just gonna skip to you laying down now? That's our bill. All of these artists can be found at the following.
Evan asked us to do them like this ever again.
that was great. And I noticed that one got more likes. I think that brings us back
I
to.
think everyone should do that. Like the next video you like do of yourself, just show, because you know you have them. There's like 50 other videos that did not make it, or pictures. Just post them.
Yes, I think the number one takeaway from our talk today is be authentically yourself. So before we wrap up, any last minute questions? Actually, I think we went over, so okay. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Monet Tavia, and this was awesome. All right, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and we'll be back here for our final presentation. Thank you again to Cravit for hosting today's presentation.